Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast, the one most of us didn't ever imagine doing, but we've been gearing up for a couple of weeks now. Jordan Henderson has this evening confirmed his departure from the club ahead of his transfer to the Saudi League for a reported 700 grand a week. The club captain departs following more than 10 years of service, having lifted 7 major trophies during a glorious era as Jurgen Klopp's on-field lieutenant. However, some have already argued that Henderson, who has been a vocal advocate for marginalised communities and really outspoken on social issues, has demolished his legacy through his choice of destination. I'm Chris Smith and I'm joined by TLW editor Dave Usher, Julian Richards and Stu Montagu. As well as dissecting the Henderson departure, the lads will have their say on a new club captain, potential replacements for Henderson and the outgoing Fabinho, and anything that they've noticed during the pre-season so far. Dave, it was like a couple of weeks ago, you and I had a little golf day in Shropshire and we just got back to the car and the reports had just started coming out, and initially we kind of just laughed at them a little bit and just thought, yeah, that's bollocks. And then we saw that Chris Bascombe at the Telegraph is one of the people who had written it, and then it kind of dawned on us that it might actually be legitimate, and sure enough, it is. A couple of weeks on, how are you feeling about it all, knowing now that it's going ahead?
I probably feel the same way I did when it first emerged, and we realised, oh, actually, something's going on here. It's not bollocks. It's not going to just be something that's going to blow over. He's actually going to go. You just said in the intro, 700 grand a week, which was initially, that's what all the figures that were banded about everywhere. I've read since that it's actually half that, and the reason it was, someone's come up with the 700 grand because initially, like, whoever's put it out there, they've said, he's quadrupling his salary, which works out at about 700 grand a week. But in reality, that's not what it is. It's tax-free over there. He's not getting 700 grand a week. He's getting half that, but he's not paying any tax on it. So he is effectively quadrupling what he earns, but he's not quadrupling his salary. And I think that makes it even worse. Because I was pissed off when I thought he was getting 700 grand a week. I was still thinking, you shouldn't be taking it. What are you doing? The fact that it's not even that, it just makes it even more disappointing. And like, there's double standards to some extent here, because I don't really give a shit about Firmino or Fabinho going there, whatever. But I just feel like it's way different with Henderson, because rightly or wrongly, I hold him to a much higher standard. And I think that's only fair because he's put himself out there as this like fucking moral guardian and, defender of like the gay community and all this stuff. This is not like something that's just been like unfairly put on his shoulders. He's embraced that. He's got himself a fucking MBE for all of this shit as well. He's not shied away from any of it. He's embraced it all until the point actually comes where he's got a decision to make. Well, you're going to go with your principles or you're going to go with your bank balance. And he's taking the money. I don't really think there's any other way to describe it. Like, that's what's happened. He was faced with a choice. Now, other players have been faced with like a choice. Like, it's like, well, do I take this money from the Saudis? It's a bit unpalatable. It's not really somewhere I want to go. I don't really like what goes on over there, all of that stuff. But it's different for them because they've just got a choice. It's like, well, do you take it? That's just between you and your own conscience. With Henderson, because of like all the outspoken things that he said in the past and that, he's put himself up now where he looks like a complete dickhead for doing it. The others, it's like, well, it's your choice, it's your career, you do what you want. With him, it's like, oh, you massive hypocrite. You've come out with all of this, and it means nothing. You either didn't mean a word you said, or, you've just, the money means more. So I just think it's really, I feel sad about it. I'm not angry as such. I'm just really, I'm disappointed and pretty disgusted. But I'm not angry in terms of like, I'm not getting worked up about it. I suppose because we've had a couple of weeks to get used to it. And that's another thing. I mean, what the fuck's going on here? It's dragged on and it's dragged on. Initially, it was because they weren't coming up with like a transfer fee. Something else which needs to be said as well. It's like, it looks like they've just gone to him before they've even gone to Liverpool. That's what they look like. They're just going to players and offering them stupid money. When the players head to turn, then they're going to the clubs and saying, okay, we want this player, what can we do? And initially they were saying like they expected a free transfer. They thought we would just let him walk away. It's like, well, hang on a minute. We were planning our season with him involved. He was part of, like, when we're constructing a squad, he was part of the plans. So was Fabinho, by the way. And now those plans have had to be, like, torn up, and we've got to rethink and go, okay, well, now we're going to have to buy more players because he's not there anymore. And I'm going off on all kinds of tangents here, but I'm just trying to get stuff out there while it's in my head. Something else that's really pissed me off about it, and it's barely being mentioned because, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's probably not that big a deal. It is to me, is that if this had have happened at the end of the season, or if there was, like, if Klopp knew that this was going to happen, James Milner would not have been out the door. Like, I understand the reasons why James Milner wasn't given a contract by the club. I get all of that. But part of that was, what do we need him for when we've still got Henderson? You know, to set the tone around the club, set the standards, and, you know, leader of the dressing room and stuff. We could afford Milner to walk out because we still had Henderson. If you knew Henderson was going as well, I'm telling you now, there is no way Klopp would have allowed Milner to go. And Milner obviously would have preferred to have stayed if it was possible. So Milner's being fucking shit on here as well by what Henderson's done. There's so many layers to it all, really. I mean, you know, I'll let the rest of you have you say, because I'm sure there'll be other stuff I need to jump in with later. But that's just my initial thoughts on it. Like, and there's lots of other stuff that we'll have to get into as well over it. But yeah, I'll let somebody else have the say now.
Stu, we saw his little announcement video before, and for me, that was just kind of hollow, really. Why would you expect us to take anything you say at face value now about, you know, what an honour it's been and how he's going to be a Red until he dies and all of the great memories that we made? Like, he's shown in the last couple of weeks that anything that comes out of his mouth has no merit whatsoever. And the remaining aspect that he didn't touch on during his video is he didn't mention why he's doing this.
No, I wasn't going to watch it, and then I was just chatting before we came on, and I thought, I better watch this. I better see what he says. And the thing that comes through is the same core feeling I've got about the whole thing. Is like, I'm not angry. It's disappointment. It's just sad that you felt like he was it felt like he was going to be a bit better. That's all. It just felt like he was going to go the extra mile. He was going to be a little bit better. I don't look at it like when you're saying there that how can we trust anything he says? Like, well, the things he said in the past, I think he genuinely felt them in the moment, and I think we've got to be a bit careful not to say that anyone who wants to stand up for these things, because they won't now, because they don't want to be called a hypocrite when they don't want to put, you know, they might get a big offer at the end of their career. We don't really want a whole generation of footballers who stay well clear of social issues because they don't want to be called a hypocrite at the end of the day. But that is where the disappointment comes from, is that he felt like I was incredibly proud of him as a captain. I thought, you know, we've essentially had halcyon days in the last few years. We've had one of the greatest teams that we've ever had. We've won everything. He captained the team in the way that you want him to captain the team. The club, for me, was being run well. We've been really strong on this stuff. Klopp's been strong on it. The women's team, there's been some great educational videos. You know, the Chelsea chant, that we tried to deal with that. It just feels like everything was positive and you could be proud of the way we were dealing with these things. And then it is just disappointing for it to end like this, because I watched that video and I just think, if he would have been setting off to MLS, we would all have been loving those videos. But now it's every trophy left now, it's just got a little smudge on the picture. Yeah, I just feel like, and that might change for me. I don't know, maybe 5 years, 10 years, that might change for me. But and I'm not going to say that I'm like disgusted with him and he's a terrible person for this, because he's human and we're all human. And I think most of us, and probably a lot of the people listening, you try and be a good person. You try and stand up for things when you can. You try and be an ally, and you don't always do it. You don't always get where you're not always brave enough to do the right thing and say the right thing, but you try more often than not. And I felt like that's where he was, and it's just really disappointing now that for not a lot of money, this mentality monster is essentially retiring to Saudi Arabia. And I just feel it's a really disappointing end to the leader of that famous team. For me, our best team. You know, I'll argue with anyone that over those 3 seasons, no other football team that we've had has done as well as that team.
Agree.
And it's just sad. I just feel like every time I see that European Cup going up, every time I see that league trophy going up, it's just a little. I'm going to look and go, oh, why did you sully it at the end? Mm-hmm. And I understand it's a lot of money. It is, and I feel like the point that we have to make as well with the Saudi Arabia thing. So I think there's a danger where we can make this thing where Saudi Arabia is this like unique evil in the world, which it isn't. And we said it before. I think we said it on the last pod or whatever. When people go into China, we didn't say the same thing. When Bolsonaro's in charge in Brazil, we wouldn't have said the same thing. You know, countries all around the world. Israel, US, UK, there's loads of dodgy shit that all these countries do. I think it's because this is a state project, isn't it? So this is getting involved in geopolitics. You are literally becoming an arm of their soft power. So it feels like you're signing on, aren't you? You're signing on for this project of the Saudi Arabians to just buy sport. I think that's probably why we're all a bit more disappointed than we would be if he went to play for, you know, Guangzhou Evergrande or whoever it is in China. So that's why I think that's why the Saudi thing hits harder. So I don't know, it's just I'm more disappointed than angry. I just think it would have been for him to finish as the captain he was. You know, again, it's the mentality monster thing. It's like for me, he came back looking like a man who had a point to prove after last season, and this is just. And now I look and go, what? You've just retired? That's just gone because someone offered you a few quid. Rather than win another European Cup or another Premier League title. I just think less of the man as a competitor. The same with Steven Gerrard for going there as a manager, talking about how he was going to be, you know, everything was about being the best in the game. Well, it's not, is it? If you go in there, it's not. And we'll get on to him. It's the same with Fabinho. If that deal goes through, I don't want him back. He's already considering retirement. He's gone. He is not up for the fight this year. Bin him.
Yeah, fair enough. Jules, you've been quite in our little chats about this. You've been sort of quite pragmatic when it comes to having expectations of footballers, but I also know you love to see things end the right way, as it has been with a lot of the players who have come and gone during this era. You've enjoyed the opportunity to kind of see those lads off and thank them for their service and their performances during this great era. As Stu said, this isn't the way this should have ended with this particular player.
Well, it's how he wanted to end it, so I suppose if that's how he wanted to go, who am I to judge him? I don't get any. I don't really care that much. Apart from, as Stu said, I just find it really anti-competitive. You've basically retired. He's 33. You could have like you look at James Milner. Dave just mentioned Milner. He's down there on the south coast of Brighton, toiling away, 38, still putting in the yards at Brighton, like just wants to contribute, wants to be a competitor, wants to like give something back to football, wants to show set the tone there. And you go, yeah, that's how you do it. Like he retired from England duty so he could carry on playing. He's still down there playing, and you think that's an example. That's like the mark of the man. And then it just really weird that like all of a sudden we're having pre-season and then Saudi Arabia call his agent and go, well, we can offer him double money, and he goes, oh yeah, do you know what, I'll do that. And you sort of go, well, hang on, you're going to be transitioned into a squad player at Liverpool, but then you understand that because of your age, but you're basically going like, well, actually, rather than be a squad player for Liverpool or play for a lower Premier League.
Let's not forget that.
Well, I'm going to get to that. Yeah, or go to another Premier League team. I'll just go to Saudi Arabia. And I don't know how long this has been in the works or when it was talked about, but it has to have come in the summer because, yeah, he would have got a send-off like all the other players. And then you add in that you're bailing in the middle of pre-season to go to Saudi Arabia. You're the captain, though. Mm-hmm. It's really weird. I don't really think anything other than like, it's just really weird. If he wants to go, I don't really care. That's fine, go. You were going to be in a squad role. will the football moves on from every player at every club. It always does. So that's fine. But if I'm a sportsman and your time at the top is not infinite, I'd want to eke out every drop I could, feeling like it mattered, because you've earned you're earning 200 grand a week anyway, so you're going to make your lifestyle more comfortable. And yet, like, everyone goes, well, it won't be just for his kids, it's for his grandkids. Like, well, if you invest properly, mate, you'll probably be all right with your grandkids and all, and you should have an accountant at this point who sorts that out for you. So I don't really take that argument. So you're earning 200 grand a week and you're captain of one of the bigger teams in England, and yet you go, oh, they're up for me double. Yeah, forget all that. No, I'll go there then. There's no, like, I know Saudi Arabia does have like some sort of football legacy. They have played at World Cups. The Saudi League teams have in the past won like the Asian Champions League and stuff. So it's not like they're literally walking out to the desert and putting a couple of goalposts and going, there you go, that's our football done. There is like a little bit more to it than that. But like, there's no way you really thought, you know what, next season, yeah, I'll probably just play Saudi. I don't get. It just seems anti-competitive to me. It just seems the complete juxtaposition to how someone like James Milner is. And I said it as a joke before the podcast started, but it's sort of, you take like a player who used to play in the team with him at the same time back in Brendan Rodgers' era. Like, you look at Joe Allen, whose body long gave up on him. So Joe Allen's like, well, I'll retire from playing for Wales, even though I love playing for Wales, but I can't do it anymore, so I'll have to retire. And then he goes back to play at Swansea because, like, this is my home club and I just want to enjoy my football playing for my boyhood club. And you sort of go, fair enough, isn't that what we'd all want to do? Go back and play for our boyhood club if you can't do it at the top level anymore. Just like go and enjoy it and be a leader to the people at that club and that community and go, this is my club. I'm back to play. Like, because we all speculated maybe Milner would go to Leeds, but guess what? James Milner's too good to play in the Championship, so he's still playing in the Premier League. And for Henderson to, like, he's got his injuries problems, but his body's not as broken as Allen's is, and he's not the machine that Milner is. So Milner's like 5 years older and still doing it. So you've surrendered whatever's left of your career for, yes, double the money, but you're rich already. What's the point of this? Like, if I was off, these sums are not the same. If I'm offered double my salary, that matters a lot more to someone
it's
on my
more than
wage.
double though, Jules. It's like
It's
okay, but the point stands. I know
the point stands. If someone offered someone if someone is earning, what's the mean average in Britain? So like 29,000, 30,000. Say 30,000 to keep it round. So £30,000. So you're on 30,000, and a job offers you 60,000. That is life. That can be a not life changing, but that is a massive lifestyle change for you that might help you out, pay your mortgage off quicker, pay any loans you've got, clear credit cards, whatever you've got. That will help. But when you're earning £200,000 and you're already a millionaire, and you've not just got that money coming in, you've got the endorsements coming in, you've got the boot deals, you've got whatever. To then say, here's more, you go, well, yeah, I can have more, but I've got the luxury house now. Well, how much more luxury can I have? Like, how big is he going to buy a stately home? I don't think he is. Like, I don't think footballers go for that kind of stuff. So what? Well, unless you're Cisse, I don't think you're going to. I don't think you're going to buy that. So you're making a big decision for how people will view you, for the competitiveness of your career, for what I can't see is going to be that much of a life-altering sum for someone when you're already earning 200,000. Let's not forget a contract that, by all accounts, was one of the reasons Michael Edwards doesn't work for the club anymore, because there was like a schism between whether we should give him the money, and Klopp backed him and said, yes, give him this money, he's the captain. So Michael Edwards said, well, I'm not happy about this, and we might go our separate ways in the end, and they did. We're still in that, we still haven't recovered from that. And then it means nothing, because as soon as someone went, have more, he's going, yeah, no, actually, I'll fuck off. Yeah. And because the man just told me I'm not going to play much, so if I'm not going to play much and I can have more money, I'm going to fuck off. It's not a great example to set to anybody. Forget about all the LGBTQ or whatever, I can't remember what it's called. whatever, all that stuff. Forget about that's another separate issue altogether. As a sportsman, as a competitor, my estimation of Jordan Henderson as a man just fucking plummeted.
Just fucking plummeted.
On the Klopp stuff though as well, like that I'm genuinely angry about how the club have dealt with it. I'm not as angry with him. I've been fuming at the idea that they've not. There's all this money on the table, and this has got to be partly down to Klopp, that we're just letting him walk away for 10 million or whatever, when they're telling us they've got hundreds of millions of pounds available, and we're not taking them to the cleaners. That has to be, again, Klopp not wanting to get in the way of his boys doing what they want to do, and that is not looking after the Liverpool Football Club's interests. And it is starting to irritate me a bit that we had control of this situation. He's our club captain. He's got 2 years left on his deal. You tell them what the price is, or Jordan Henderson gets back in training.
But the problem with keeping him in training, Stu, is like if you're the captain and you're meant to be the culture leader, but you were quite happy to jump ship, you can't have that stink around the place, can you?
No, I get that, but
you have to strip him of the captaincy.
For me, I don't think you even need to do it. You just need to say to him, listen, there's millions of pounds here. Go and have a word with them. You better tell them that they need to pay 20 million or 25 million, whatever we decide that fee is. For me, we should have been much harder with them and said we want a decent fee for our club captain, because if there's £350,000 a week for him, then there's money in the pot. And if it comes down to it, Jordan, you've already shit the bed, you've already sullied your reputation, you'll have to take 100 grand less then, fella. Because we're having a fee.
I agree.
And I just feel like too often it's like, I don't understand it. Like, Jordan Henderson is a player, right? He's a player, he's our captain. So I can understand Klopp going to the board, I want him boxed off with a deal. Right, okay, you could argue the wages were too high, it was going to an age where we weren't happy with it. But then even now, 2 years on his deal, and you're still not... You don't want to upset him. It just feels to me a little bit like...
Wait, maybe they didn't want to upset the Saudis. Them guys, you've got to be careful. You don't upset the Saudis too much.
Well, listen, there is an argument that we don't want to upset them too much if we want like 300 million off them for Salah next summer or something. So I do get that. Yeah. But I don't know. I just feel like we need to be a bit hard. We were always good with the outs. And I just feel a little bit like... It feels to me Klopp is a little bit too concerned about how the lads want to finish their career. Or do you want to run your contract down? That's fine, you do that then. Or do you want to just leave with 2 years on your contract? Oh, that's fine, you do that then. Like, we need to force that sometimes. It can't just be what they want. We're not getting... I mean, I think we've been lucky with Fabinho, is that we're going to get value, but too many of these players, as they come to the end of their contract, we're not forcing the issue and getting the value that we should be getting, because there's no way on earth they're going to pull out of that deal. They're going to find the money. If you say it's 20 million or that, I mean, Mahrez has gone for what? 30, was it? 35 for Mahrez, something like that. It's just, we need to get better value for him, and that's annoyed me. I think the club have not done the business there properly at all. And I understand they want the wages off the bill, that's fine. But, I mean, that's going to happen anyway. If they're super
interested... Michael Edwards would have got 20 million for him.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's cheap. You can't come in and take the iconic captain of one of the greatest Liverpool sides ever. You're telling us that you value him to that price. Right, well, price him there then. Don't give him away. I just feel like we had our pants pulled down a little bit on that one.
Mm-hmm. Chris, I want to get your thoughts on it, because as much as we all like Jordan Henderson, love Jordan Henderson even, he was your boy, he meant more to you than he did to us, because it was like, I mean, you're on record plenty of times how much you loved Henderson. So when the news came out, like, as much as like it wound me up, my first thought was, oh, fucking hell, this is going to be bad for you. Like, it's going to be, it's like when me with Suarez, it's like the same kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys have covered quite a lot of my thoughts on the matter anyway, at various points, but like you guys, I'm really, really saddened by it. Just a bit heartbroken, a bit angry, but just really, really, I feel like defeated by it. Just bereft. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was my favourite player ever for the club. And I'm not at the point yet where I can bring myself to like absolutely slaughter him for it. But I'm definitely a million miles away from that, like, thank you, Hendo crowd that we're seeing at the moment. There's like... a lot of people wishing him all the best and thanking him and just, saying you deserve it and that kind of stuff. I don't think I'll ever get there.
No.
But I feel like not only has he tainted his own reputation, but he's fundamentally ruined his legacy. And in doing so, like Stu intimated, he's also sort of tainted the entire era. And you look at the forum and he's been getting hammered on it for years, but to me, he was absolutely intrinsic to all of this. And perhaps even like the lens that I viewed this success through, perhaps someone who was more like our representative on the field, not the most supremely talented footballer of all time, but just through sheer will and determination and leadership and grit and all of those platitudes, but you looked at like the straining of every sinew to the point that he couldn't get up the field to celebrate with his teammates, or like collapsed on the floor after the Barcelona game, or the lifting of the trophies and the moment he had with his dad after lifting the European Cup. Like that all felt like quite personal and along the same lines of the stuff that we would do as fans if we were in that same position. I mean, it's more difficult to identify with the likes of the imperiousness of players like Alisson and Van Dijk and Salah, whose brilliance is beyond anything we can kind of imagine, really. And I saw the video of the lads in the FA Cup at Wembley after the FA Cup final, like singing and dancing to "Freed from Desire" with the cup, and he's there doing the little dance in the middle with the cup, and it just left me feeling a bit sort of like icky, really. Like I've got a picture of him right next to me now with the European Cup, and I look at it, and it's definitely not the same anymore. Like I don't think I'll be able to look at footage of all these trophy lifts and the shuffle and everything, and feel the same way about it. And I think like I'm profoundly disappointed in him because I really believed in him. And as a 41-year-old man, it's probably silly to feel that way about a footballer. And you'd think that by this point, I'd have seen enough to not be shocked by this, but I am. And the cynics among us will always revel in being able to say, like, ha, I told you so. But I don't really want to live like that. I want to look up to people and believe in them and hold them to a high standard and expect the best from them. And he's disappointed me in a really, really profound way, and one I would have never expected. He would have been the last player on the list I would have expected to do something like this. And for me, I think when it all comes down to it, I mean, we'll get into Gerrard's role in this in a little while, but I also think that's part of the reason why the Saudis have gone for this particular player. They've been quite clever in targeting, like they've corrupted the perceived incorruptible, the captain of a club whose fan base values their moral stance on issues above perhaps anybody else. And I think it's like a massive fuck you to all of us who consider the game to still be a little bit sacred in the space of all this sports watching, the onslaught.
Yeah.
And it's just the brazenness of them being able to say, we'll take what you love and we'll buy it and we'll make it ours because we can, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And I think that's why I feel so defeated about it, because it's kind of like you can accept we've lost so many players down the years to the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid when we couldn't match their ambitions, the players' ambitions on the field. But this is just it's not about that at all, is it? It's the complete opposite end of the scale. Like they can't match his ambitions, but they can match his wage demands and his desire to be ultra rich in the face of everything that he's ever made a stand on. And it's just really, really depressing, really. And part of me feels, I know I'll get over this, but part of me feels like almost like it's a nice little way for me to transition out of really, really giving a shit anymore. Like it has the makings of like a last straw where I won't feel as strongly about the club as I do, and I won't fall in love with players anymore in the way that I have. And it just, I think, kind of more where Jules is at than I've been previously. And I also think it's really, really sad because of, I'm sad for him in a way because of what he's giving up and what he's sacrificing. I think it's just utter folly for him to do this, and I think he'll really, really regret it. And as someone at the end of the day who still like cares about the bloke, I just think he's let himself down in a massive way, because even if he's not a regular part of the squad, the match day sort of the first 11, he's playing less and less games. Even even if he does have a feeling that maybe his legs are going and he's not going to be able to be the player he once was, the next couple of years could have still gone exceptionally well for him, and he could have had an ending befitting of any of the great Liverpool players that we've seen down the years. Like, you feel like he's been sort of... do you remember when Fowler left and they had the thanks DM mural?
Yeah.
And things like that. Like, it's just like these sad, unbefitting endings to what has been like an all-time great career. And he could have had it all. He could have sort of had the mural. He could have had like the glorious departure, like the enduring love of most of the match-going fan base, and it's all gone. And for what?
That needs the Goodfellas music playing over it. That little
Yeah, you get to live the rest of your life like a schmuck.
You're saying about the culture there. He would have got credit for that as well. That's the thing. You look at Milner. They were the guys who set that culture. So people wouldn't have looked at it and said Jordan Henderson only started 20 games that year when they won another couple of trophies. He could have played to the end of that contract. Yeah. And if we would have won things, he would have still been the guy setting the culture. Because that's although we've got great players and we've had great flair players, the relentlessness, the mentality monster thing, it has been about culture when we've been brilliant. Like the idea that we got, it's 2 of the top 4 points totals ever in history. At one point, I think our rolling 38 game tracker was 136, drawn 2. Mm-hmm. That was like we took 110 points out of 114 at one point. That was the level of the culture at the club, and he was one of the people setting that culture. So he would have still got he still would have got the credit being a bit part player.
But don't you think it's his responsibility to actually have carried that on as club captain? We're in a rebuild. We've got new players coming in.
Oh yeah,
who need to adapt to all of that stuff and and see like the culture and everything else. He's the fucking club captain with 2 years left on his contract. So what if he's not going to start every game? You've got other responsibilities. You might not be starting every game, but that's not the only thing you're being paid for. You're the club captain. Like the man who sets the tone, sets the example, who new players will go to find out what's what, if they need advice and stuff. He has a responsibility to do that. He's in a big contract that he got for himself when not everybody thought he should have got it. Now, I'm not talking like... I'm not going to go back and revisit history and say we shouldn't have done it, because I was in favour of him getting that deal. I had no problem with it whatsoever. Even now, I feel like he deserved it at the time. But once you've gone to the lengths that you went to get it, because he had his agent touting him around other clubs, threatening to leave and all of that stuff, he got the contract he wanted, and then he's just fucking walked out on it with 2 years left. When he's club captain, it'd be different if he wasn't the captain. But he is the captain, and that brings certain responsibilities, which he's been incredible with, by the way. He's been a fantastic captain. He's done absolutely everything right up until now. Up until this moment when he's done this, Jordan Henderson has been, he's done everything exactly the way you would want your captain to do it. People can argue about the way he got the contract or whatever, but the thing is, I feel like, he'd maybe been underpaid before that. In relation to like certain other players or whatever, and my view is always like, some people look at it and go, hang on, you're giving him like 200 grand a week for the next 4 years. But to me, part of that is like, well, yeah, you're getting that 200 grand a week, but it's partly because of what you've done before that to earn it. It's not about like, oh well, is he going to be worth that when he's 35? Well, maybe not, but he was worth that when he was 25 and he wasn't getting it. So I'm okay with that. I understand like the reason why you would reward players with contracts in that situation. But once he's got the contract and he's the club captain, I'd be pissed off if it was Real Madrid who'd come in and taken him. And he's walked away to Real Madrid. I'd be like, fucking hell, that's a bit shit. But this is a joke. He's like, as you say, he's pretty much just given up his career. And I had to laugh before when I seen like he's apparently being given assurances about his England place. I'm like, oh, fuck off.
Fuck off.
If that's even a thought in his head that he's like he wants assurances about England, no. You're retiring. Accept the consequences. You go over there. You're not going to be getting picked for England, and nor should you be getting picked for England. It's absolutely farcical. But Chris, did you watch his video, or could you not bring yourself to do it?
No, I watched it. I just left me feeling cold, really.
I wasn't going to. Yeah, well, I wasn't going to watch it, and I was looking on the forum and people were talking about it, and I thought, I'm doing the pod. I probably should watch it, so I know what people are talking about, and I've got a duty to watch it. So I put it on and I started watching it. I lasted maybe 30 seconds. I'm like, no, that's going off. It was a fucking joke. Like the dramatic, like melancholy music playing and reading from a script. I'm like, oh, you know what, Hendo? You could have just sat there and just spoke from the heart. Instead, you're reading from a fucking script. Now, whether he wrote that himself or somebody wrote it for him, doesn't matter. It just came across as like just pure manufactured, insincere, just fucking cringeworthy bullshit. And I had to turn it off. And I do take Stu's point when he said if he was going to the MLS or something, we'd have watched that and we'd lapped it up. Maybe so. Maybe I would have felt completely differently about it. But it didn't hit the right tone for me. I also find it really weird that nothing's been said by the club or even the club that he's fucking joining. I mean, he's training with them already.
By the way?
That's the only reason we're recording tonight. Well, we're only recording because we were waiting until it was announced, and it hasn't even been announced. As while we're talking now, it's still not been announced. We just know Henderson's put something out about it. He was caught, not caught, but he was videoed today training. All of this before any announcements being made. It's utterly bizarre. I don't know what the reason is. I'm sure it'll all come out in the wash as to why. But the way the whole thing's just developed, it's just been pathetic from start to finish. And that video that he put out, it made me skin crawl. I couldn't watch it.
Yeah. You can subscribe to the Liverpool Way podcast on all the major platforms, whether it's Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon or Podbean. Just search for the Liverpool Way, leave us a review and hit subscribe to automatically receive all new episodes. You can also head to liverpoolway.co.uk and grab a TLW season ticket for just £3 a month. There's tons of exclusive content, including match reports from every Liverpool game, weekly Premier League roundups, the TLW diary and access to the members-only forum. Lastly, you can follow us on social media at The Liverpool Way on Twitter and at The Liverpool Way TLW on Instagram and Facebook. Jules, I just want to sort of go back to something that Dave was saying there about him setting the culture and the fact that he has been a tremendous captain who's done everything you'd want from somebody in the role. One of the things that's kind of been overlooked during this whole saga really is that we're now missing that. Like, that's not something that we can replace very easily at all.
No, it's like it's trying to lay the railway track when the train's running, isn't it? Now, because you've lost your two culture setters in Milner and Henderson. You've got to hope that the likes of Alisson, Robbo, and to a lesser extent Trent, can step it up. Verge as well. I know there's questions over how he sort of is. But I think you have to sort of believe that he is one of the culture setters. But yeah, those are the lads now who are going to have to do it because we've been left high and dry. Again, because he just suddenly decided, like, oh, that's a really good offer, I'm going to go. And it's been a really weird pre-season. I haven't like sort of followed the ins and outs of all the transfer sagas because I can't be asked anymore. I'm in my 40s now. I'm not interested in that anymore.
Plus, there's too many.
Well, there is that, and also the sort of the method of delivery is difficult now because Twitter's just an absolute mess. So it's really, and I don't really want to give the owner of that site the steam off my piss. So it's difficult. So and I'm not going back to the early 2000s and putting Sky Sports News on. That's not happening. So I've been sort of out of it, but it just seems like the summer. It just seems like the Saudis have just taken a load of shit and thrown it and seen where it lands. And because of that, everything else is obscured with shit. So anyone's plans, anyone's board's got a bit of shit on it now. Like, oh, fuck, got to get around that, got to wipe that off because they've just gone and it's everywhere. And it's like there's no way we were planning to sell Hendo and Fabinho at the start of this window. And now it's like, right, we're going to have to sort of pivot on this one, and then we're going to have to pivot on that one. And I'm not sure, like, we spoke before when the season ended that we weren't 100% confident that we would get our transfer business right because there's been so much upheaval there. And my confidence is not high. Now we're having to do it on the fly, like lay the track as we go. Because while it's great that we are changing the midfield and we're doing the necessary work, these are a lot of young lads coming in, playing in that midfield. And, like, who's the senior person in there now? Curtis has been here for a while, but you can't really reasonably expect him to be him. So you sort of, Trent.
Thiago, if he's fit.
Well, he's never fit though, is he?
I
Yeah,
know.
it's a big if. And would you be surprised if suddenly he up sticks and went back to Barcelona on a farewell tour? And to be honest with you, I'd feel differently about that. If he'd said, actually, I've had enough from Barcelona, I want to go back, I'd go, well, fair enough. Fair enough. It's your club. It's where you're from. I understand that, which is why none of us can really understand the Henderson thing because I don't even know the name of the club he's going to. They all begin with Al something. It's like is it Al Hilal? Is it the one he's going to?
Ettifaq, Al Ettifaq or something.
Ettifaq. Yeah, I knew it was that one. I was just going to say that as well. One of the great teams of Saudi Arabia. Yeah, like
they're not though. They're just mid-table
no, I know.
shit.
That's the other mad thing.
I know. He's not even gone
this
to one of the good teams.
So again, like, because I haven't like followed it closely because I sort of see it and I go, oh, Saudi Arabia, Henderson, okay, fine. What I don't get though is like they're not one of the 4 clubs owned by the Public Investment Fund, so it turns out they haven't got that much of a pot to piss in. So why are they buying players why are they buying players like Henderson then? I don't understand. I get why the 4 public
They're all
investment
propped
ones
up though. The whole league's propped up by it.
Right.
I think it's through Gerrard.
But
I think Gerrard said I can have a word and get him if you want him.
Yeah, but Gerrard's not paying for it out of his own fucking bank balance, dude.
No, but I think Gerrard's probably said I can go and get the Liverpool captain. That's what I think. I think Gerrard's probably gone, I can get him.
But that doesn't speak volumes for Henderson. Like, Steven Gerrard rings you and goes, come and play for me.
No, doesn't.
Well, first of all, you're a
It's
shit
not great.
manager. You've demonstrably proven you're not a very good manager. And then second of all, you're in a league where I'm not sure the competitive standard. I'm not even sure how hot it's going to be to play. Like, for a player that used to thrive on running his energy, that's going to be a bit difficult if it's 30 odd degrees all the time. Unless it's like Qatar where they air conditioned all the stadiums. Those air conditioners that just look like massive versions of the one you have on a plane, by the way, in the stadium. Like, gonna have to get someone to go around the edge of the stadium and turn around so they face the right way.
And they'll spend a week after every game with a really bad fucking cold.
Yeah,
Coughing and spluttering.
I remember. You won't remember this, Dave, because obviously you've never visited Chris. But I remember when I went to visit Chris.
Yeah, but I've been to Florida. He just wasn't there at the time.
But when I went to visit, like when I was sleeping in the room, I was like, I had to turn the air. Like he's like, the air conditioning's up there. I'm like, no, I won't be putting that on. And he's like, it'll be really warm. Like, I can't. I get really ill if I sleep in rooms with air conditioning because I went to the Caribbean years ago and I got really sick and I was really cold. I had a cold. And I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with me? And I realised it was because the air conditioning was on all night and I was really ill. So when you were making fun of Naby Keita with the stiff neck, I'm thinking, do you know what though? I feel the pain there because I've if I'm in air conditioned rooms for a long time, I start getting cold symptoms. But
hey, did you see Naby got injured in the warm-up?
I did see it. Of course he did.
First pre-season game.
Well,
That's
Saudi
as
Arabia,
on brand as you can get.
Well, not even Naby Keita's taking the Saudi Arabian dollar. It's
They're too
just
smart
so.
for it.
Yeah.
It's just so weird, that he would consider this as an option. It'll never be weird. It'll be never weird, and it is difficult now. You're going to lose the club captain. And now you have to go, right. I mean, I suppose they already know. I suppose they have the leadership team or whatever. And it'll just be -1 and someone else will slot into it. So, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You have to hope that it carries on. But it does make you sort of think, what do the players in the squad think? Do they just think, fair enough, you're earning lots of money, good luck to you? Or do they think, fucking hell, that's a bit strange? I'd love to know.
But he's the weirdest marquee signing ever as well, because he's going to get his talent has always been to get the best out of the better creative players around him. So he's going to turn up as a marquee signing. Don't you start.
God, that's all you did.
He's going to turn up at a mid-table club, and he's meant to bring all the fireworks, presumably, at that team. He's going to be looking at like a load of non-league Saudi players, trying to get the best out of them. It's so weird.
You're right, Stu, because it's like when a lower league team signs. You know what it's like? It's like Ben Foster playing for Wrexham. On the one hand, you go like, oh, that's really good for them. And on the other hand, you go, it's not that much of a... Ben Foster's playing for you and go. It's like, it's a good story, but it's like, doesn't really move you in terms of like what you think's going to happen. It's like when a really old player turns up at a club and everyone gets dead excited and you think, yeah, but they're old now. It's not that exciting, is it? It's like, yeah, it's all right. And it's just he's a bit younger. It's like, yeah, he's a Liverpool captain, but he don't really do much, does he? Like, what are we looking for?
It's not going to be fun either, is it? He's going to be, 5,000 people watching you running around in the sun, giving it to a load of crap players, and it's essentially just retirement. I think it makes it even sadder the fact that like this is a generation of players who aren't going to go and have to run a pub when they finish. They can still earn good money for the rest of their lives doing punditry. Carragher, Neville, they all earn good money. Even if he doesn't want to do that, he could be an assistant manager. You can earn good money all the way through till you're 50s, 60s. You're not off running a sports shop, are you? It's just, did you really need that?
With the club as well these days. All
yeah,
that
you do different appearances, or even like Fowler, you can just earn shit tons of passive money from owning assets and things. It's just,
I'm not sure how any of us feel about that either, though.
No, it's not great, but it's the way. It's the way the world works.
It's a 20.
You own shit. You own more and more shit.
It's a 26,000 capacity stadium where they play. It's the Prince Mohammed bin Fahd Stadium.
I think their average attendance was like 5,000 or something last year.
What is it? They can't even fill a 26,000 seater stadium.
Yeah, it was just.
That's what happens because the field's been cut down a bit because they don't allow women to go. So that's half of the population who can't attend anyway. They might have 10,000 if they allowed women to go.
And if we know anything about oil countries, we know they can fudge their attendance figures.
We do.
So it might be getting less than 5,000. Is that what we're saying?
Again, explain to me, everyone, how come the world's most famous football club with the most European Cups can be behind Manchester City in revenue? Because whenever I go anywhere, I see pricks in Real Madrid shirts. I don't see people in the Man City shirt. It's somehow biggest revenue in world football. It's amazing what these oil people can do.
Yeah, clever.
I used to like it when oil people would just JRU in, like giving his wife a slap.
Yeah.
That you knew where you were there. You knew where you were.
So we've got a little bit off track here, but I do want to have a quick chat about Gerrard's role in all of this. And as you guys know, I don't really need an excuse to have a pop at him because I don't really like him very much. But I think his role in this has been kind of fucking reprehensible, really. Like if you profess to care about Liverpool Football Club as much as you do, then you don't, just because you've decided to go to Saudi Arabia and pretend to be a football manager, you don't go and get the Liverpool captain and completely upset the apple cart and fuck up our season plans 3 weeks before the season starts just because you're having a little pretend fucking football manager thing. Like, I'm not sure what his fucking game is, but honestly, he can fuck off.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I can't disagree at all. I think there's a lot of players out there that we could have gone for, and he's gone for Liverpool's club captain who's got 2 years left on his contract. I think it's a fucking shithouse move from him. Simple as that, really.
Good.
And so he played before the club as well. As always, I know that's where all transfers work now, but they've obviously had a chat with him before they've even bothered talking to us about it.
Yep.
So, well, one good thing, at least we can stop fucking talking about him being future Liverpool manager. Thank fuck.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that ship sailed a long time ago, to be fair. I don't think there was any chance of that.
So I'm not gonna quite change tack a little bit there. I don't really blame Gerrard for it. He's not a Liverpool player. He's not a Liverpool manager. He has ties to the club. It's entirely his choice. He's a grown man. It's entirely Henderson's choice. He's a grown man. It looks a bit unsavoury for me. I'm not sure why he would do it, but he's no longer associated with Liverpool directly anymore. It's entirely his choice if he wants to go there. It's a silly move. And it's entirely his choice if he wants to try and sign Jordan Henderson. He could try all he wants. It's up to Jordan Henderson to say yes, and he did.
Well, we've already ripped Henderson, so no one's blaming Gerrard.
I mean, the minute Gerrard went there, that he was basically saying he was giving up on his managerial career of any meaning, any sort of meaningful way, as far as I'm concerned. There's no way you'd have to win that league and the Asian Champions League multiple times before anyone in England would consider giving you a good club a role now. And I don't think anyone would do that anyway, because I think his experience at Villa and how quickly Unai Emery turned Villa around after he left. In fact, I don't think Steven Gerrard did the worst PR job on his own career. I think Unai Emery did by coming into Villa and making them look competent all of a sudden.
Manager.
It's and that was a guy who was like last out of the building.
Say he loosened the jar. It's one of them. Isn't it? You say I set that up, and if I'd have been there a bit longer, I'm not saying that's true, but that's what you would argue if you were in his shoes.
Well, he learned that one from learned that excuse from Julian then, wouldn't he, for 2005?
Yeah,
it's you can only do what you can do, and Gerrard had Villa in a bad position in the league, close to relegation, and Emery came in and got them into Europe. That is a bigger indictment of Gerrard than anything Steven Gerrard did himself as a manager. But as again, he's a grown man, he's an adult. He's forged in his career. He's made this choice, and Henderson's made this choice. It's just all a bit unsavoury. That's my take. I don't dislike Steven Gerrard, but then I've never the Chelsea. I never really got fully over the Chelsea thing, I forgave him for it, but I never sort of it always tainted the brand sort of thing. I could never fully go yeah, because you try to fuck off to Chelsea, twice.
Yeah. At the absolute height of that cultural rivalry as much as the football rivalry.
Yeah. It's so I forgave him for it, but at the same time, it was never back to 100 after that. It was always 80% or whatever, because it was always but the Chelsea thing, that did happen. I can ignore it, but at the same time, it happened, and it'll always be there. So, yeah, I'm not going in 2-footed on, ironically, on Gerrard as you are, but I feel like we can say, what a dickhead and all that. They're adults. They're grown men. They're allowed to make their decisions.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it, though.
But that's him, though, isn't it? It's
that's
his
what I
would say. Jeff Goldblum.
It's egomaniacal, Stevie me. I'm the be all and end all. I'm pointing at the back of his shirt, screaming, "I'm the fucking man" when he scores goals and stuff. The bloke's always a fucking arsehole.
Hang on, though. I mean, a lot of players do that, and sometimes that kind of stuff is it's the mentality of a high end sports person, athlete, isn't it? They are like that. They are quite narcissistic. It's what drives them forward.
Yeah, I love
to be the best. I mean, yeah, Dave would be doing it now if he could. So I mean,
I am doing it now.
Yeah, there you go. If Dave crushes this podcast, he'll do a lap of the house just to make sure.
A very slow lap of the house.
You can do the Dave Bautista wave, just the turn of the hand. But I can't I'm not going to knock him for that. That's part and parcel of Tiger Woods dined off that shit, and everyone marveled at his ability to reel in players at tournaments or to lead the field and keep leading and all that. And you pick any sport, Jordan. And they're all like that. Yeah, Jordan.
He was an arsehole too.
They can be though, because that's the thing. But you accept it's part and parcel of it. They're not all nice. Some of them are nice guys, but
they can't all be Luis Suarez.
Well, in sort of honor of Chris's new gig, there, they can't all be Lionel Messi, can they?
No, that was good the other night, by the way. Go on, Steve.
I was going to say you can do it, but then just don't expect a warm welcome and don't start going on about being Mr. Liverpool. If you want to try and nick the captain to come over and play for you, that's fine. But then please don't give us all the Mr. Liverpool stuff. And
no, that's fair. That's fair as well.
Yeah, I just think that you got to go one way or the other. Yeah,
he will. Yeah. He will be giving it that, Stu, when he comes back.
Yeah.
Oh, he will. Yeah, and loads of fans will be happy with that.
Yeah. Anyway,
well, a lot of fans will be happy because Henderson's gone, especially the non-match going fans. So they'll be entirely vindicated by all of this.
We should probably talk about that then from like the footballing perspective. I don't know whether that's what you wanted to get onto next, Chris, but I feel like that just ties in, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, because it's a question of how this is going to affect us and whether in time it could be regarded as something that was perhaps necessary, this clean out. Like if Fabinho goes as well, then we've cleared the decks of the midfield, the ageing midfield, some way through choice and not through others. But like, Dave, do you think that it could end up being a positive thing for us overall?
Yeah, it might be like a little bit of short-term pain, but I think long-term we'll be fine. I think with Henderson, I think we'll miss Henderson, the captain, more than we'll miss Henderson, the player, this season, because I don't think he was going to have like the same kind of integral role that he'd had before. I still think he would have had like a significant part to play on the field, but a lot of it would be just helping the new players integrate. Because the position that he's been playing, I don't think it particularly suited him anymore. With the changing system, I don't think like playing as on the right hand side of the whether you want to call them 2/8s, 2/10s, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that particularly suited him that much. So it was the right thing to do to be phasing him out. I mean that goes without saying, but it's happened. See, I think the problem is because it's happened and it wasn't planned. Like, we were not planning to do this. We were planning on having him around the squad, playing a certain amount of games. I think he would have played quite a few games as the 6 as well. I think like between him and Fabinho, and Thiago when fit, I think that would have taken care of the 6 rather than us going out and buying somebody. The Fabinho situation, which we'll get to later, that's forced our hand. We've definitely got to buy a 6 now. Henderson going, do we need to buy somebody to replace him? I don't know, because I think we've already done that, in the sense the 2 new midfielders who've come in, they sort of forced Henderson out of the first 11 anyway. So if you're signing somebody else, well, what do? Do you sign another promising kid who's happy to play like a certain amount of games a season, or do you go for more experience? Because there's a danger that the squad's getting a little bit maybe too young. So I do think like this has caused us a bit of a problem in terms of what we do about replacing him. I don't think it's like quite straightforward now. And I do think that's the big inconvenience, is that this is happening maybe a year ahead of what we wanted it to happen, when we wanted it to happen. And the other thing is, going back to the fee, I mean, like Stu's arguments about the fee, I totally agree with him. It's not so much about what we value Henderson. I think it's what we've got's probably a fair price, but not a fair price when you consider how much money they're throwing around. It should be like, well, you're throwing all that money around, you can throw some our way and you can pay good money, because we don't want to sell him. He's part of our plans for this year. So if he goes, we've got to buy somebody, haven't we? So if we're letting him go for like 10 million or whatever, well, what good's that when it comes to replacing him? It's different when you're wanting to... Well, yeah, it frees up wages, I get that. But I do think, like, the argument should have been, when we were negotiating, we should have said, well, look, we're not looking to sell him. You're coming in wanting to take him away, and he's got 2 years left on his contract. We've got to replace him. And the other thing, which no one's really mentioned, it's a homegrown player that we've lost. So we can't just go out and replace him with, like, some Spanish player or something like that. We can't do it. Well, we can, but it means we've got to shuffle things around elsewhere to do it. So that's another problem. Like, you look at the price that English players are going for. Look at what Mason Mount went for. Conor Gallagher to West Ham, they're talking 50 million quid. So the English tax means if we want to replace Henderson with another like-for-like homegrown midfield player, it's going to cost us a fucking fortune, and we're letting him go for 10 million. So that's another part of this. That's not ideal. But just purely from the football sense, we're not going to miss him massively on the field this year. Hopefully not. I mean, if we do, it's because the new players haven't performed or we've had an injury crisis. But I don't know what we do in terms of, do we buy a replacement for him, or are we looking at like, well, no, let's just get a 6 in and make do with whatever we've got elsewhere. I don't know. It's a tricky one.
So what have we got now then? We've got Soboslai, we've got Thiago, McAllister, Curtis, Harvey, and Thiago. Did I say him already?
Yeah, but Trent as well.
Trent, yeah, okay, all right. So
Bajcetic
we
as well.
definitely, yeah. I mean,
Bajcetic,
yeah. It's going to be. Is he healthy yet or not?
No, he's training,
No.
but not full training. I don't think he's played in the pre-season games, has he?
So Henderson leaving in some senses could free up, a spot for him to progress a little bit faster than he might have had the opportunity to otherwise with all of these new signings around as well. So looking on the bright side, that we hope that what we saw from him is very much a sign of things to come, rather than him just being better than the shit that we were pumping out around the turn of the year, and it sort of him not being him not instantly turning into this world class player. But we saw enough signs from him to think that there's definitely something to think he can be a regular, if not immediately, but in the medium term. So I guess I'm just trying to look on the positive side a bit. Jules, what do you think? Do we get 2 in now, or do we just try and replace one of them?
I think you need to try and get 2 in, whether we can or not. I mean, there's no point in spending the money for the sake of spending the money either. But Dave mentioned an injury crisis. I wouldn't, you can't rule that out at all, the way we manage our injuries. So I think you need the bodies. So you need 2, but I don't know what they're looking at, because even like the transfers we're linked with, they seem to just be like, they seem to drag on a little bit this summer. Like, so much for get them in early and get it all done, because we're only 4 weeks from the start of the season. No, 3, no, 4 weeks. No, it's the 12th, isn't it? Week of the 12th, weekend of the 12th of August. So we're 3 weeks from the start of the season. So you're not getting anybody in early now, are you? You're not bedding anybody in. So I think you should be trying for the bodies at this point, because we had so many injuries last year and we ran out of players. But whether they have those players available, I mean, there'll be a point where those players won't be available because other clubs will go, it's too close now, we don't want to sell them. So I'd be looking for 2.
We're not in the Champions League, though. That does make it a little bit easier, because you can play kids in the Europa. It's not like you're having to play 2 high-profile games every week. When
you've basically got a new midfield, though, you don't know which combination is going to work. So you want to give yourself as many options as possible to find the right combination, especially if you are chopping and changing between Europa League games and Premier League games.
Stu, it's difficult to kind of keep track of it at the moment, because there are so many names being thrown around and so many questionable sources on Twitter throwing those names up. But of all the players that we've been linked to, give us a couple of names that sort of that you'd like to see us bring on board, perhaps.
I think we need a 6, though. We need a holding player. So it looks like, from the talk today, it looks like we're pretty set on getting Lavia from Southampton, which is, it's an interesting buy. I think it's probably, when you're saying is this a good thing for us, I think we're probably going to have a season now where I'd set us a couple of points down on where we were going to be. I think losing that experience probably gives us. I think it gives you a bit more volatility. We're going to new networks, new combinations are going to be trying to adapt. I would expect us to finish a couple of points below what I would have without these changes, but it does accelerate the process of rejuvenating that midfield, and it probably has put. If you think about wages and fees, the amount we thought it was going to cost us to sort the midfield, we're probably maybe 60-70 million pounds up on that now. Not from our choice, but we are, and we're doing it a year sooner than we probably would have wanted to. So if you ask me, would I take 70 million to have a bit more risk this year? Probably means you can bring in. If they're going to bring Lavia in, he's got potential. He looks like he gets his foot in. He's a big lad. And he's good at getting out of the press. It looks like he's hard to press. He can go past people who come and try and get the ball off him. It doesn't look like he can dictate play, but I might be wrong. So I understand why we might look at bringing him in, but he's young. He's going to make mistakes, and that's in a very important position in the team. He's 19, I think. Played 20 odd games, for the first team. He's going to make mistakes, so we just have to accept that if we are going to accelerate this process of rejuvenating midfield, we might just have to take it on the chin. If Thiago's not fit this year, we're looking at quite an inexperienced midfield now. Even Trent, who's a bit more experienced, hasn't played in there a lot, so there's a lot of new faces in that midfield. When you're saying one or two, I'd go one, but I think this summer you have to be a bit agile, and maybe if we've got that £70 million in the bank, you have to be on your toes for if there is a bit of value somewhere. If with all the Saudi money going around, and with some teams might end up with too many players on their hands, if a big hitter becomes available at like 60 million, just whatever name you want to talk about, if you want to talk about Kimmich or Valverde or someone at the right age, if it was 27-ish or something like that, if they become available, I feel like you do that and you get them till they're 31, 32, whatever, and that really shores the project up for 5 years if you can do that, rather than going and getting a prospect. You've got enough prospects now. If one of them doesn't come available, I wouldn't be buying another gamble, because I think we've got enough for them. We can have a look at Bacic, we can have a look at if we bring Lavia in, he's a young lad. There's enough players that we can have a look at and can fill gaps. Curtis can do that, Harvey can do that. Wouldn't be taking another punt. But if a sure thing became available, I think maybe you use that little bit of headroom that you've got to grab that and take advantage of maybe a bit of uncertainty in the market, or just the right opportunity where a club's got too many players.
Dave, do you go along with that?
Yeah, I do. But I'd also say it's all gone very quiet on the centre back as well. We're not getting a lad from Chelsea, so what's plan B? Because we need to do something there. I think though, what we're going to see this season, I think it's going to be like Klopp's early years, where pre-Van Dijk really. I know we've got Van Dijk now, but the way the team was then, we were just relying on okay, we're just going to have to score a shitload here because we're going to be a bit ropey at the back. And I'm not saying that specifically about the defenders. It's not the defenders are shit, we got a problem. It's not that. I just think when you're bedding in all these new players, I think we're going to just be relying on scoring a lot of goals, because we are going to be just with the press, people maybe not quite being where they need to be, and we've seen last season what happens when it's not working collectively. And I do think it's going to take time for all of that to bed in, and we'll probably concede goals as a result of it. And again, I'm not saying it's because the defence as such is the problem. It's the team defending that's going to be the issue for us. So, and we've already seen it in pre-season, the forwards are on fire, and well, yeah, this is what we're going to need next year, because I think we're going to have a few of those 4-3 games, just those wild matches. But thankfully, it does look like we've got enough firepower. If Diaz stays fit, Gakpo's bedded in now. I think Darwin's going to be flying this season. Mo's going to be Mo. Don't start, Jules. We're not outside the chippy. Just fucking wind your neck in. Mo's going to be Mo. Jota's looking
genuine
lively.
annoyance. See, Jules, you got him there, because there was some, even that little snigger, I could sense there was some genuine annoyance.
I knew what was
in
coming.
that.
I knew what was coming. He can't help himself. But we'll see who has the last laugh there. But yeah, we are going to have some problems. So I do think it's just going to be, we're going to rely on the attack. Okay, let's just go out and score more than the other team. I think that's got to be the mantra this season, until everything beds in and we become solid. And then it's Klopp 2.0 now, isn't it? This team, it's it's more or less a new team. Because when you think about it, you can roll off the team that we had. The 4-3-3 system. All the players, we knew it was the first 11 more or less picked itself. That those players are just going to go down in history as that was a great team. And if you look at it now, most of them have gone. So you've still got Alisson, you've still got Van Dijk, you've still got Mo, you've still got Robbo. But even Robbo's position in the team's a little bit tenuous, depending on what we do with this system. If we sign a left-sided centre back, that puts Robbo in a bit of trouble. So, and the rest of the team's new. So I do think we have
Trent
got
too,
but even Trent, he's in a different role. So although we've still got Trent, it's not the Trent that we had in like the marauding right back in the 4-3-3. It's a different Trent now. So it is a completely different team, really, barring like, you know, the 3 or 4 established old heads we've got in there, and they'll be phased out over the next couple of years. Hopefully not Alisson. You know, I'd like to see Alisson stick around for as long as he wants, but I do think that Robbo may have a problem over the next couple of years. I'm not expecting Mo to be here for more than 2 years. Maybe even next summer we might have an issue there. I don't know. So the team as we knew it has gone, and we've still got a few players remaining just to help the process. You know. The transition from like the old team to the new team, but most of the teams changed already, and we're going to see more changes, obviously. So you know, you're going to have like Lavia's probably going to come in for Fabinho. So again, you look at that. I mean, it's going to take time to bed in, because the last team did. You know, it didn't happen overnight. It was like steady progress, and we were exciting. You know, there was a lot for us to enjoy watching, but we were still flawed, and then. You know, those flaws went when we got Alisson and Van Dijk and Fabinho, and then, you know, we just took off then. So, you know, hopefully like the same thing's going to happen, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Are you confident that is going to happen though? Like, part of me thinks that maybe that first 11 that you mentioned that won the league in the European Cup, that was sort of like lightning in a bottle. Like,
yeah,
can we reassemble that same culture, do you think, Jules, with like an entirely new group of players, with Jurgen being 5 years older than he was then? Like, I'm a little bit wary that we might end up being a little bit ordinary.
Yeah, because the ingredients aren't the same, are they? The chef is the same, but the ingredients aren't, and so you can't be sure what's going to come out. Yeah, I'm with you. I would be a little bit wary of it. I wouldn't be 100% certain that we're going to get the same result from this. Yeah, and as you say, Klopp's a bit older, a bit more jaded. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about what'll come with the new signings and who will be what, and whether players can step up into their roles. Don't know. Great exciting answer. I'm sorry, but it's a don't know, isn't it? I side with you though. I don't think. I'm wary that it'll happen the same way.
Yeah, but a great chef can make, you know, great meals, whatever.
Don't you dare talk about cooking.
I'm not talking about me. I'm not saying I'm a great chef. What I'm saying is, you know, the ingredients might be different, but if you've still got the great chef, he's going to rustle something up, isn't he?
Yeah. Not if he's you. Not necessarily.
Not if you've been working in the kitchen every day for fucking, you know.
Nah, Klopp still
5 years
looks like
non-stop.
he still looks like he's got it to me. He doesn't look. There's been times when you can see it's got him down a bit, but no, I think he's rejuvenated, and I'm not worried about Klopp. No, definitely not.
I think having a fresh group of players will help as well, won't it?
Yeah.
It's new young lads listening to the message, so it isn't the same people who've heard the same message off him. I mean, it would be really nice if Guardiola just fucked off, though, wouldn't it? You know, so that if we got 88 points or something, we might win the league. It is really annoying that it feels like during Klopp's time, we have to get 95 points to win the fucking league every year. But yeah, I'm pretty confident that with a new set of lads, it'll be very least, like you say, Dave. I think it'll be good to watch. It'll be entertaining. It'll be going back to some of that heavy metal stuff.
Energetic with the young legs in there.
Yeah. I do worry a bit about the leadership. You look at it now and it is a bit empty, isn't it? It's hard to know without being inside the dressing room, because Virgil always looks laid back, doesn't he? So, but I do think you look around and they look at him as the alpha, I think, in that dressing room, because the only other, you run out of possibilities really for captaincy and leadership. I think Robbo seems to be like a joker, and is he firm enough? And Mo's the best player, but is he a good communicator? So I think probably it would be pretty unanimous if you asked that group of players who they look to now as the leader. So I mean, maybe let's be optimistic. Maybe that kicks Virgil up the arse a little bit as well. Maybe he has to be a bit more serious, a bit less laid back.
When you talk about like captains, there's kind of two different roles. There's club captain, and then there's on the pitch captain. And I think now the main job of the on the pitch captain, it's not so much like leading his team, because other players in the team can do that. It's dealing with the fucking refs. And like Hendo's pretty good at that. Hendo could get away with saying whatever he wanted to referees, and he never got in trouble for it, because he's like England international Jordan Henderson.
Golden boy,
So you get away with all kinds of shit. Whereas like, I don't know if Verge is the type to be getting in a referee's face. People have said about like maybe Alisson being captain. Well, as great as Alisson is, he's in goal. He's on the other end of the pitch to the ref half the time. So, and if a player who's not the captain is in the referee's face giving him shit, refs don't like that. They'll take a certain amount from the actual captain.
Imagine Robbo as captain.
That's why Robbo can't be captain.
Be terrible,
Not because Robbo's a joker around the club. Robbo can be serious and he wants. Robbo could not be captain because the fucking refs and linesmen hate him. So it's a big problem. You can't have Robbo doing that. And that was my next point. Is like, they don't like Mo. They don't give Mo anything. He can't get a decision. So how's Mo going to be like in the ref's ear trying to get decisions for other players? He doesn't even get anything for himself. So
should Darwin be captain because he's learned a bit of the English?
Not yet, a little bit early for him, but I like where you're going.
So he can't really offend people, but he can get involved.
I think maybe it's a year or two too soon.
Fucking drop the knot on someone if they get a bit too chesty as well.
Yeah, if someone looks at him the wrong way, or, he can just stick the head in and go, what? I don't know, I'm trying really hard. Oh, fair enough, mate. Let's applaud you off the pitch. We're not going to win this game now, but well done.
Now, when Darwin's been here a little bit longer, he might start displaying leadership traits. We'll see. But like seriously though, it is an issue, because it is two separate things to me. Like club captain and then the person on the pitch who's going to be in the referee's ear, and that's not necessarily the same person. Like,
should probably be Trent, shouldn't it?
Yeah, it should. But this is where you've got a problem. It's like, you can't give Trent the armband because Virgil will see his arse and he'll be no use to you whatsoever. I don't think Virgil van Dijk would take that snub in the way Sammy Hippier took it when Gerrard was given the captaincy.
So Van Dijk as captain
has to be. There's no other.
Trent as
it
vice
doesn't
captain.
sit well with me. Virgil being captain does not sit well with me. It's not ideal.
It's dressing room politics, isn't it? So what? Trent as vice captain in that situation.
That would be ideal. Yeah, but I don't know.
I mean, I'd have Alisson as captain.
I know, but for the reason I just said
before,
I'm with you. But Alisson, like as a club captain, ambassador, setting the tone, all that stuff. Yeah, Alisson with the armbands on the pitch, no, because he's not going to be able to go racing 50 yards out of his goal.
I mean, this isn't perhaps a great example, but like Spurs had Lloris as captain.
Yeah, and he was dog shit as captain.
It's a fucking
United
fraud.
had De Gea as captain.
Again? Well, what good did that do
and
then?
They were shit.
Yeah?
Yeah, but they were shit in goal, like Alisson isn't.
But they were also shit.
I just worry that if Alisson's captain, he's gonna be like subjecting the players to like prayer meetings and that kind of stuff.
That's a really good.
Nowhere near the rainbow armband.
No, that's a really good point, though.
I'm not joking.
Putting his arm around the ref and saying, "You've got that one wrong, ref, but it's okay because Jesus loves you."
Are you seriously saying you don't want a man who's got God on his side as captain? Like, I mean, you're not going to have a bigger person on your side than God, is it? He just gives it the old Ned Flanders and says a quick prayer before he goes and sees the ref, and the ref goes, "Do you know what? That was a penalty, actually."
I've got some terrible news for you, Jules.
You're right. You're right. No, Stu, you've got it right. We better have Mo because Allah, we want Muhammad and all that. We don't want the Christian God. We want the Muslim.
You've got to cover all bases.
No,
Jules,
so we have
Santa Claus, right?
So you have Alisson and Mo. So you've got both types of religions covered there. So whichever God you're praying to, you're okay. You've got the majority of the world's God covered.
I think from a captaincy standpoint, I think it's a new era, and I think we need to clear the decks from a captaincy standpoint as well. So not Van Dijk. I would be concerned about giving it to Trent because I'd love for him to just have a year now where he's just enjoying his football again and not dealing with any additional responsibility beyond like nailing that new position and him just being the cocky, smug, world-class talent that he is and not really having to worry about anything else other than just doing that. I would go with Robbo because I do think he has the mentality for it, and I do think, I always think back to that Man United game when we're 5-0 up and he's telling people to not take their foot off the gas. I don't think there's any more.
He didn't listen to him though.
No, but the next year they did.
Yeah.
Right. Like
true.
we made up for that more than. And I don't think there's a more competitive player in the squad than him anymore. Someone who is as fiercely wants to win as much as he does, and hates it when it's not going his way. Like I would have Robbo in that club captain role, and I would have Salah probably as your on-field captain, like your inspirational talisman who leads in a different way. But you know, the point that you make about the refs is also equally valid, and I hadn't really thought of it from that perspective.
I think it's more valid now than it was in the past, because in the past anyone would go up to the referee and argue about decisions, but now it just seems to be like, if you're not the captain, refs do not want you talking to them. Mm-hmm. But I agree with all that about Robbo. But what I would say to you, in an ideal world, to me, if you ask me who's the most suitable person to be captain, for me it's Robbo. No doubt about it. But I wouldn't do it for various reasons. One, Virgil would see his arse, and then you've got a problem there. Two, referees and linesmen don't particularly get on with Robbo. And three,
you got elbowed in the face by a linesman.
But three, what if we sign
got in trouble for it?
What if we sign like this shit hot left-sided centre back who fits the system that we're playing, and then Robbo is no longer guaranteed his place in the team? So there's various reasons.
But that's why you have the club captain and the on-field captain, isn't it?
But then you've got Mo as the on-field captain.
Would you not appoint captain until the transfer window's closed, and then that's not a problem for this season? If you sign that player, then you don't. If you don't sign it, you give it him.
No, I don't know. I still don't think it's. I don't think there is like a perfect solution.
I don't think it'd be Robbo. I'd be astonished if it's Robbo.
Trent, but as Chris said, not now.
It'll be Virg.
I think
everyone in that dressing room thinks it's Virgil, so it'll be Virgil. And I think if you're going away from that, you're complicating issues where you don't need to.
Yeah, they won't go away from it because
mentality, though.
So do I, but they won't go away from it because you've literally got no choice here. It has to be him. It would cause too many problems.
To not upset him, you're just not going to have a proper captain then.
Pretty much, yeah.
But you don't know what goes on behind closed doors as well, boys. Sure. I think in that their own group, they'll know who the leader is and who set the tone, and I think it's probably going to be Virg in his own way.
Do you know what? I keep going back to like the image of that goal at Old Trafford though, when Milner's having to bollock him because he didn't come out and make a block, and it's like, yeah, your captain not throwing himself in front of shot, and he doesn't. You know, it's not like that was a one-off. It's happened other times as well. And I feel like if I'm on the pitch and he starts bollocking me for something and he's not doing those things, I'd like, if I'm James Milner and Van Dijk's the captain and he starts bollocking me for something, I'm not taking that off him. I'm not. I'll be like, hang on a minute, do your own fucking job before you start telling us about doing ours. So that maybe I'm like a little bit prejudiced against him because of stuff like that. But he's just, and also we can dismiss this and say, oh, Dutch pundits are all knobheads or whatever, but it's not just like Van der Vaart, is it? There's others. There's a lot of like murmurings coming out of Holland about like he shouldn't be the captain and he's not a great leader and stuff. So that's a bit of a red flag as well. It's not like everyone in Holland sees him as like, oh yeah, he's our captain. He's, you know, great leader, no question marks at all. They've got question marks about him, so I think like I have as well, because why wouldn't I? You know, hopefully he just proves us all wrong and he steps up into the role and he's great. And you know what? I think like Virgil playing at his absolute best, this is not an issue because he is the man. He's just got that swagger about him, and you know, the aura, and everybody like respects him. But Virgil not playing well and being captain, that's potential for problems.
Is there something to be said for doing it like NFL style, where the players just vote for the captain?
I think they kind of do that anyway, won't they?
Yeah, they've got a committee, haven't they? They've got like a leadership committee.
Yeah, so it might be.
It's like four or five of them are in it.
Yeah, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. They might have voted it for themselves, and it's not really for us to then say, is it? It's their choice.
No, but we just, what we say means fuck all, really. It's not like we're making the decision, but you have an opinion on it. He will be the captain, and the players probably want him to be the captain. I just think there's potential for that to end badly.
Yeah, like Harry Maguire at Man United style.
Maybe not that badly.
That's a bit much.
Not that badly, but
But you know what I mean, then.
Yeah, I know what
you're
you
the
mean.
one who said that if he's not playing well, then him being captain is a problem, and we saw how that went at United. But I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Verge is going to have a Harry Maguire-esque calamitous season, and everything.
Well, Verge has got the aura, hasn't he?
Had.
You know,
Yeah.
Well, he still does for the most part, and all Maguire had was like,
The head.
gravity around his head.
A massive gravitational pull.
Yeah. Well, you guys are probably right. It is going to be. It probably will be Verge, and that is the simple choice. But again, it goes back to what you were saying about us letting James Milner go as well, because it would have just been him by default. He's the vice captain. He would have become the club captain. So.
Well, Verge was always captain if Milner and Henderson weren't playing. So
Yeah.
if
Says
it
it all, doesn't
wasn't him, that would be seen as like a demotion, like a snub. It's not like it's up for grabs and you can give it to anyone. It's like he's seen as like next in line. So if you don't give it to him, you've got a problem. So it has to be.
Well, let's hope he steps up then, eh?
Just until Darwin's ready.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what else have we not covered about
Fabinho, I suppose.
Fabinho, right? Yeah. I mean, I guess, Stu, does it bother you in any way, and does it undermine our ability to make a stand on these issues and complain about other clubs like Newcastle and Manchester City when we're taking way above market value for a fading Fabinho?
No, I don't think so. I think there's a different matter when Newcastle are literally connected to the PIF, when Chelsea, apparently the investment fund have got shares in the group that own Chelsea. I mean, that's a totally different thing to an open market valuation where they want him and we want to sell him. And at this point, we probably didn't come into the summer wanting to sell him, but I think as soon as someone puts £40 million on the table for him, then you really do have to consider that. You take that, I think, at this point. I don't think he's fallen off a cliff in the way a lot of other people do. I think I was interested to see how Fabinho and Henderson were going to do this year, whether it was like they were going to come back strong. But obviously, both of them have decided that that's not what they want. They'd rather retire. So that's why I don't want Fabinho back. This deal has to go through, like. He's making it very clear he's not up for this big challenge that we've got ahead of us. So for me, that's fine. Then you've made that decision. We have to get it done now. This deal. But no, I don't think there's any moral issues about it really. If they're gonna come to us on open market and say we want him for £40 million, then you just have to take that. Okay. There weren't that many people worried that when you were taking money off Chelsea. And Roman Abramovich essentially stole a lot of money off the Russian state, so there's very few billionaires and millionaires that get their money through.
I think you'll find that money was just resting in his account.
So no moral quandaries really about that.
All right.
Well, just on that point though, about. I'd take issue with the suggestion that it's above market value, only because we were not going into this summer wanting to sell Fabinho.
Yeah.
We were keeping him. So let's say they offered 20 million. Would we have taken 20 million? I think we just told them to fuck off. I don't think we'd have took 20 million. We just said, no, he's part of our plans.
Isn't it?
So if they come in and they're offering 40, you're like, you know what? Yeah, we'll accept that. But it's not like they've come in and offered us like 90 million quid for him and we're like, fucking hell, really? Okay, yeah. Snatching their hands off. I think 40 million is probably...
Because he's not 30
maybe
yet,
like
is he?
5 to 10... No, 5 to 10 million more than what he's probably worth. But considering we were not looking to sell, it's not like we were trying to get rid of him. It was. I think it's a fair price, really. So I don't think there's anything dodgy about that. And also, what are we supposed to do? It's like, we were not looking to sell Henderson or Fabinho. Those players both got their heads turned by like the Saudi money. They wanted to leave. Klopp has like said time and time again, any player who wants to leave can go. He won't force anyone to stay against their will. So as soon as those players want to go, we're then in a situation where we have to do a deal. Now, we didn't go running off to the Saudis and like offering our players to them, so I don't think we've got anything to feel bad about. I think Liverpool just made the best of the situation that they were put in. They never like courted interest from Saudi Arabia, like they were not wanting to take Saudi money. But once those players have decided they want to go, then you've got to get the best deal that you can get and move them on, because there's no point keeping them. But I do agree with what Stu said. We should have got more money for Henderson. But in general terms, as soon as the player says he wants to go, that's it. Klopp's not going to keep players who want to leave. He said that over and over. Unhappy players, you don't want them around the place. I mean, when was the last time we kept somebody against their will? I mean, Suarez is an obvious example, but after that...
Under Klopp, it hasn't.
It hasn't happened under Klopp, so the last one I can think of, really, is Suarez.
Nat Phillips, maybe.
He's not even with the squad in pre-season, is he? I've not seen him in any of the videos.
He's gone to Leeds, isn't he?
But he's not gone anywhere, and like... He just seems to have like disappeared. He's supposed to be going to Leeds, but it hasn't happened.
I'm sure they're going. I mean, the only thing with Fabinho's transfer, I think we should spare a thought for all the Toby Carverys or Merseyside and Cheshire are going to lose some business there.
Yeah.
I thought the sticking point, like everyone was saying,
it's going to be worse
dogs.
than COVID, isn't it, for the losses they're making?
They were on about like, oh, is this dogs? I thought, no, I reckon the sticking point is he wants a few Toby Carvery gift cards to use when he's back over here, like otherwise he's not going. Or perhaps he wants the Saudis to build him a Toby Carvery over there.
I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah, they build plenty stupid shit over there. They'll do it.
Well, hey, have you seen the size of their Yorkshires? Let's not go nuts here and call Toby Carvery stupid. The only thing, Toby Carvery, though, I've only been a couple of times. I've never, like, the only time I've been, I'm not going again because people are turning up here in sweatpants, elasticated pants. Because they're trying to get as much off the fucking Carvery as they can. And they ration the Yorkshire puddings as well. You can't even, like, size those Yorkshires. I'll have a couple of those.
And then you go to Anfield and you see them, like, fucking in the middle of the park. And you're like, hang on a minute. He was wearing tracky bottoms in the Toby Carvery before. What's going on? But just a quick point on the Fabinho thing. It's dragged on and on. And you mentioned there was a report about it because of his dogs. That's been dismissed now. It's nothing to do with that. I did read somewhere else that it was Liverpool wanting guarantees about like the fee. They hadn't proved that they had the money or something. I tell you what, if we need every penny of that up front, because I would not be doing any deals with these where it's like they're paying us in 3 years. Because in 3 years' time, that league's probably just going to be fucking dead. The Saudis will have got whatever it was they wanted from it, and they'll just pull the funds and it'll be onto something else. So anyone who's like owed money in 3-4 years time, I'd be wary about that. So whatever we get it up front.
Yeah, you'd hope we'd be savvy enough to do that. I know, Dave, Stu, like there's a range of opinions on this. Stu, you've said that you don't think Fabinho fell off the cliff as much as people said he had. It was more, we've talked on other pods about this, you said it's more victim of the circumstances and he was kind of a scapegoat, like the failing press leading to him being late into tackles and that kind of stuff. Dave, you were really, really impressed with him in the second half of the season in terms of the way he bounced back and his performances towards the back end. I thought that was a little bit overdone, to be honest. He definitely improved, but I didn't see anything like the old Fabinho from those performances towards the back end of the season. Jules, how do you feel about it?
I like Stu would have liked to have seen what he could have done this season, but I don't think we were ever going to see the Fabinho that we needed to see again. So I think the cash out on the player now is probably the right decision. It leaves us a little bit short, and again, I don't really like how it's come about because we were obviously planning to keep him for another year, but I don't think he was ever going to get back to those heights that we needed him to. I don't think he'd have been as bad as he was at parts of this season, because again, I think Stu's right. He was a victim of the system that was crumbling around him rather than him himself. But it feels. I wouldn't say it feels right because nothing about all of this Saudi Arabian stuff feels right, but it feels a more appropriate a Brazilian going like over there and at that age, because that feels more appropriate. That doesn't really surprise me that much. It's just about who we can replace him with, whether we can get an adequate replacement, because at his peak, I mean, he was phenomenal.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Anything else we want to cover before we call it a night?
Pre-season games, I suppose. I haven't watched any. I've watched highlights. I've not watched any of the full games.
I haven't even watched the highlights.
You watched the game the other day, didn't you, Stu?
I did, and if you would have put a gun to my head and made me name the 11 players on the pitch at any point, I would have struggled. So that's actually when people were saying it was a humiliation that we drew 4-4. Like, we were rotating and messing around, and there was loads of sloppiness. Yeah, there was sloppy bits and
it's
whatever.
It's funny though, isn't it?
It's a run out. It's a workout, isn't it?
The people are saying like, well, clearly it shows that the defence needs work. We've got to get players in. I'm like, no, it doesn't show that. It would show that if Alisson was in goal for the whole game and we had our first choice back four playing and the holding midfielder in there. If all of those were playing for the 90 minutes and we conceded 4 goals to some German stiffs who I'd never even heard of, then you can start saying, hang on, maybe like the defence is a problem. But you just can't read anything into that at all. The only thing that I'm reading into it is like the forwards are linking up well and scoring goals. It's like, okay, that's a good thing. But we're conceding goals, but we've got like all sorts of different players. You've got Adrian in goal. You've got kids coming on playing fullback, and with Callum Scanlon's got games. Connor Bradley's playing. So you're going to concede goals. You've got no continuity. They're not fully fit and up to speed yet. Fully fit's the wrong word because they're always fit. Like, they're never not fit, but they're not fully up to speed, sharpness wise and stuff like that. So it doesn't matter how many goals you concede. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, the opposition are like grown men, and they're starting their season next week or something. Like, they should be bullying kids a bit. You know what I mean? Even though they're decent, talented kids. You've got like Connor Bradley trying to do the inverted fullback job, and there's other lads in there that probably aren't even going to get a minute in.
I was going to ask about that. Is that what we've been doing? When
He's
Trent's not been playing there?
Yeah,
because I know Costas played in the first game, didn't he? Costas had to go at it.
It looked to me when I was paying attention that Trent was the one that was essentially just playing the 6, and then they had Costas coming in and helping, and they've had Connor Bradley coming in and doing a bit in there as well. They've been busy. Connor Bradley looked busy. He looked like he was really trying to make an impression or whatever. There's lots of other players who are just getting bits and bobs of a game, and it's just a run out, isn't it? They're just working on bits and bobs. It's a run out. It's always frustrating when you see Joe Gomez still being sloppy, like not getting to his man for shots and stuff, and you get irritated at it. But it is just it's a run around.
Did you see the goal that they conceded when McConnell, like the kid, he's like just been brought on, and Adrian gave him that pass in his own box. I was like, oh my god,
he's got to.
Tommy,
he's got to give him that pass. He's got to. I hate that when it's like, oh, it's Adrian's fault. It's not. The kid's got to he's got to play the pass.
Yeah, but what's the kid supposed to do? Is like it's played to him and
pass
immediately
run onto it.
But immediately as the ball came to him, he's challenged.
No,
he tries to pass it.
He stopped. He stopped. You've got to keep coming onto it. It was the kid's fault. The goalkeeper's got to give him the ball there.
I don't think
you can't go. We're going to play with 4 kids, so just launch it. No, that's your job. You're playing 6.
You pick your moments. You can't just give him the ball when he's under that kind of pressure.
No, you can.
And it's like the goal we got at Southampton as well with Lavia when like he just passed it straight to Jota. It was like similar to that. Only that was Lavia's fault. I feel like this was definitely just on Adrian. So totally disagree there. But when you're a kid and you've just been brought on in a game, that's not the pass that you're wanting.
You've got to do. That's your job.
Nah.
You're a number 6.
Right, Roy Keane,
you're a number 6.
Down.
That's your job. Do your job. Trust me, the coaches will be going, you need to do better next time. They won't be saying to the goalkeeper, don't give it to him.
Nah, I disagree. But then again, you've got the coaching badges, so...
Well, yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll learn a bit more over the next week anyway, because we've got Leicester on Sunday in Singapore and then Bayern Munich the following Wednesday, a week from today. So you probably think at this point we'll see a semblance of what we'll see against Chelsea on August the 13th. Obviously there's more players to come back in and everybody's getting up to full fitness, but you think that it won't be like 2 different 11s for the whole 90 minutes, dozens of subs and what have you, and we'll start to see like a little bit of what we can hope to see.
You usually get 65, 70 minutes, don't you? And then they start making the subs. you don't get like the 2-11s like what they do in the first couple of games. Oh, have we got any more after that?
There's a game on Monday, August the 7th against a team called Darmstadt.
Okay.
I've never heard of either, and that's being played
Preston.
Deepdale.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I might go to that. It's only up the road from me.
Nice. All right.
Probably won't get a ticket for it though. It's a small ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's not that small, but yeah.
That's 20,000.
Yeah. I'm not going
Right.
to go. Who am I kidding? I'm not going to no fucking pre-season friendly. I'm not fucking 25 anymore. Where I'd be like, oh yeah, they're playing off the road. Yeah, I'm going to that. Like going to Crewe for pre-season and stuff. No, those days are long gone.
Yeah. Well, you and I used to travel the breadth of the country for those reserve games.
I know.
In
Good
like
times,
2003 or whatever. They were good times.
Yeah.
Really good times. But yeah. I can see we're running out of steam here, guys. So unless there's anything else we want to add about the Henderson situation, captaincy situation, any thoughts ahead of the start of the new season that you're itching to get out, I'm going to wrap it up.
No, I've got nothing.
Jules?
No, I'm still in pre-season mode, as in I'm pretending it doesn't exist
Actually,
until it kicks
just
off.
a quick point then, because Jules has not been paying attention to pre-season at all, so I'll just let him know that Darwin's been on fire. 3 goals in 2 games, assist for Mo, looking really good. So, yeah, shove that up your arse.
Are you taking the piss, or has that actually happened?
No, he did. And some quite composed finishes as well.
Yeah, so have that.
Who do we play again?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough.
Right.
You can only score against whoever's in front of you, can't you? He's doing
Yeah,
his
and
job.
when his Premier League team's in front of him, we'll see what happens.
We will
then,
see.
Won't we?
We will
Hopefully
see.
he'll prove you wrong and he'll prove me right and be fantastic. I know you've always been ragging on him and I'm not having it anymore.
Oh, okay. Is that right? Yeah. We've got plenty of evidence. You seem to be forgetting you're being recorded when you're saying these stuff.
Don't confuse me with Terry.
No, you're worse than Terry. He just takes his lead from you in the chat.
See, I'd
Right,
like
okay.
to, at this stage, ahead of the new season, try and promise our listeners that this running battle between Dave and Jules over Nunez, which to be fair, I kind of chip into a little bit every now and then for fun as well. Yeah, I'd like to promise that that's not going to continue throughout this season, but I can't do that, so you might as well all get used to it.
No, he'll
Unless,
stop
of
as soon
course.
as the goals are flying in and he's got no ammunition to come back at me with.
Okay.
Hey,
Let's
if we
hope
start
that's the
scoring
case
goals,
anyway
that'll be
for
made
our
up
sakes.
for him.
Stu, who's right, me or Jules?
Probably you,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
there you go. Right, we can end the pods, that's it.
All right. Well,
So,
overall,
just to
it's been...
clarify,
No,
sorry,
no,
Chris,
we're
just one
finishing.
thing. Just to clarify, you're Stu, who you spend the entire time in the chat ragging on his
No,
opinions.
he's got his coaching
Suddenly
badges,
it's
he knows
okay,
what he's
yes.
talking
Oh,
about.
right, okay. Stu, next time he rags on you, remember we're going to bring this one up again.
Yeah, definitely, mate.
I agree with Stu in that chat more than
Don't
anybody
forget, Dave,
does.
you're being recorded
No,
too.
you do, to be fair.
I do. See, I agree with him more than you in the chat. Two great minds.
I don't think I've ever disagreed with him, have I?
Well, you have just now. You have-
Let's just finish on that, Dave. Two great minds.
yeah.
2 great minds.
Yeah, I'm calling it. All right. Yeah, unless you want to listen to another 25 minutes of these lot talking about their WhatsApp group, then I'll wrap it up. But overall, it's been sort of a sad day for most of us, really. I know there's going to be a good bunch of fans, certainly some of those on the forum, who are delighted to see Jordan Henderson go, but I'm definitely not among them. And at the end of the day, I guess, until we hear from him about why and whether he's honest about that, we'll all still be guessing. Yeah, we'll catch you if there are any new sign-ins. We might be back before the start of the season to talk about some of the pre-season games. And I know that we promised to do something kind of fun, but I think we've all just been enjoying the time off, right?
Yeah.
We'll have been enjoying the summer off. So, yeah, we will be back with quickness, depending on events. And until then, we'll catch you soon.
Well, the best word I can say, but will describe this was boom. Woo, what was this? It was really good.